Hello and welcome. So it looks like we got patch notes for the Lost Arsenal update that should be coming out on Wednesday of next week. We'll add some new room cards and equipments to some of the clans, the old clans as well, but also will include some balance changes. And I thought I'd take this video just kind of go over what we're going to see on these balance changes, give my thoughts. So let's just dive in. Some stuff about stuff they wanted to rework. You know, want to keep identities. Addressing infinites, they want to do that. They don't want to remove infinites completely, basically, but they do want to make them a lot harder to achieve. Okay, so let's see. Here's the list. I think it'll be easier to just go to the list of cards and go over one by one. So first one up is Animus of Speed, which has now been given an ability, Swift Shot, which basically is a cooldown to immediately attack any target. That's going to be really nice to just attack any target. And if you have multi-strike on this unit, it will multi-strike. You know, my first instinct was to think about the Silencer, the Herald on Entropy Seraph, but I immediately realized that's not going to work. But other than that, this is a pretty good unit to just kind of address backline threats, or, I mean, just to do a lot of upfront damage to tanks. It's definitely a nice one to have. I mean, it's a nice buff for this unit. I don't think this unit is like too terrible, but it's definitely needing some help. So giving that ability can definitely, I don't know. I'm interested to see how good it is. It definitely will be good. I wonder how good the unit will be, though. If it'll be better than a sweeper, probably not, but it'll definitely help. Next up we have Awakening Thicket. So they're basically changing the card Awake to a room. Now Awake was the 3 Ember one that heals for 40 and applies regen 3. Now it's a room for 2 Ember. Uncommon room. Friendly units have plus 20 max health and restore 10 health on resolve. So that's an interesting one. Definitely will be nice to have when you're doing some kind of rejuvenate thing. I don't know if this is like too terribly broken or anything like that, but it's a nice one to have. Just get those rejuvenate procs to return. And after 2 turns, you're basically getting a free 20 HP upgrade on everything, which is really nice. So, definitely can provide some nice value. I don't think it's really solving the problem of like corruption or something like that on your Awoken units. But it's definitely a nice start. Awoken Hollow basically now has 10 more max HP, so it went from, or starting HP, so it went from 15 to 25. Again, that's not a huge amount. It's still got pretty low stats for how much space it is, but the initial HP is definitely welcomed. At 15 starting HP, this thing, especially early game, is just liable to die like very quickly. So that extra bump is definitely helpful. It's not really going to help it survive again, but it's nice. So Awoken's Railspike, here's one of the infinites. So basically they just added this text, cannot draw additional cards this turn, meaning I guess after you play this, you can't draw any more cards from any additional sources. So I think this is still a good card that's worth taking. You just can't dupe this card several times and then go infinite with it, just draw your whole deck on repeat. It's still a very good card, I think, and you know, I didn't really use infinites anyway, so this is still good. I mean, even without infinites, it's still good to dupe this and play it multiple times a turn, so it's a shame you can't do that anymore, but I think it's still good. You've got Edge Prior. It says healing and regen spells cost -1 this floor, so they added the and regen. This thing is still worthless, honestly. This is just nothing. I don't know. This is just a very nothing buff. This still is not worth playing. It gets in the way of like Awoken Hollow. It eats up the cultivates. It's just not worth investing in anything at all. Ensnare. Okay, so basically what they did to Ensnare is you can play it on your own unit. So you can just draw a card even if you have nothing to root. It's a nice change. I always felt like it was a little bit annoying sometimes when I felt like I couldn't really play it on anything. So it's nice to just be able to play it on your own units just so you can get the draw out of it. I mean, I don't think this card really needed a buff, but it's definitely nice. Focus Growth now. They changed it to restore 20 health twice. I think it was 35 HP or 30 before. So it's a little more health in total, and it's also 2 cultivate trigger or rejuvenate triggers. So could be something. I mean, it's not a great card still. I'm still not crazy about it, but it's a nice little change. Husk Hermit, funny that they buff this unit. It says Revenge +3 attack, and they nerfed this attack to 3 from 5, but they buffed its HP from 30 to 35. So I think this is just a pretty huge buff overall. It's barely any attack lost, and most of the attack that you want to have on this unit is not coming from the base attack, so it's two attack lost and 5 health gained, which is nice. And it also has a little revenge text. And to be honest, I don't know how worth playing around that revenge is. I don't know how worth it that is or will be, but will be interesting to mess around with. See if that's something you can do. It definitely helps the scaling, because Awoken can have trouble with scaling. So we'll see. See how that works. It's definitely a nice buff. I'm not complaining, but I don't think this card really needed to be buffed. Okay, Razor Sharp Edge, they buffed it to +12 attack from +10. That's pretty nice. I think that this card was kind of a little bit on the weaker side, so getting a little more attack is definitely fine. Not much else to say about that one. Restore, they buffed it from Regen 1 to Regen 2. That's really nice. I really hated how you had to basically play this card every single turn in the early game when it was your only source of regen to actually keep your regen up. Now you can actually build some regen with this thing, which is definitely really helpful. Definitely will help Relentless. Yeah. So they nerfed Restoring Retreat. Fair. I mean, I think they maybe buffed the HP. I think it was 20, now it's 25, but or maybe it was 10. I don't know, but they nerfed the Ember cost, which is, you know, fair, because they want to avoid overstacking, I think they said. I think they... Did they have notes about this? Restoring Retreat. At 1 cost, Restoring Retreat was an easy way to overstack a floor, making it extremely valuable to use with Awoken units. Reverting it back to its monster tree in 1 cost, but increasing its healing. Yeah, so 10 to 25. So, I mean, you're still going to just use this to overstack, right? And also to just drop units on the floor when you have a sweeper or whatever. But at 2 Ember, that's a lot harder to do, so... You know, it's a shame. It's kind of a bummer. I don't think Awoken was really needing a nerf. I don't know why they really felt the need to nerf this card. I don't know. Like, I don't think this is doing anything super crazy, and Awoken is just not like a crazy powerful clan or anything like that, so I don't know why this needed to be nerfed. I don't really get that one, but it's still usable. Yeah, I don't know. Weird one. But I guess it can't all be buffs. Sharpen is +6 attack and spike 6, up from 4 attack and spikes 5. It's a decent card. Not amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's still, like, fine. Spreading Spores now restores 3 health, as well as apply Regen 3 and Spikes 3. So I think it was, before it was apply Regen 2 and Spikes 2, it didn't heal anything. This restore health is actually a really important part of it. The fact that it can actually trigger Rejuvenate on its own now is huge. This card might actually be takeable now. The problem before is that it didn't even proc Rejuvenate when you played it. So, this could actually, you know, this was, I think, one of the worst cards in the game. It could actually be quite doable now as a strategy. So I'm interested to try this one. Steel Singer, he now says rejuvenate +3 attack permanently. So that's up from 1, so that's a pretty huge buff. If you saw my tier list, 1 second, sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so if you saw my tier list, I thought this unit was pretty terrible. At 3 attack, it might actually be pretty good now. We'll have to see. I mean, the fact that it triples the attack, and I'm still not sure if this is going to be good. We'll see. I think it maybe will be. But I don't know. I mean, it's still a huge Ember cost. It's still not doing a whole lot on its own. It's 4 space. I don't know. We'll see. Thorned Hollow, same thing as the Awoken Hollow, gives another 10 HP, and it now says spikes 4 on rejuvenate instead of spikes 3. So this one definitely needed a buff less, I think, but again, with that 15 health, that was the most annoying part. So that's just a nice buff for this unit. The spikes 4 also makes it maybe a little bit more doable as a solo carry. You know, I don't think this unit really needed buffs, but it's nice to have them. Vine Mother, yeah, this is a weird one. So, end of turn, sting spells in your deck gain +4 magic power, and ability Vine Wrath. So that, let me just scroll up to see what that says. Add 2 sting spells to your hand with cooldown 2. So it basically does the same thing, except now it's an ability for some reason, and it also has an end of turn +4 magic power on stings. I don't know. I don't think that... I'm skeptical that this is really all that meaningful at all. I'm not really sure if this is going to end up moving the needle really on this card. I don't know. 4 magic power, that's not really that much. I don't know how many stings you're gonna have or what, like, I don't know. I'm very skeptical that a sting build is gonna work. I don't think there's really enough juice there. 4 magic power is just not that much. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. So otherwise it's pretty much the same unit. Yeah, weird. Okay, Wildwood Sap. They changed it to apply regen 4 from 5, so that the regen went down, but it also gives 4 max health, or 4 health really. 4 filled health to the unit. So I think this is... I don't know. I feel like this is kind of just a nerf. Like, I have to imagine they wanted to buff this card, but I feel like this is worse. Like, it's overall... The effective HP of regen 5 is 15, right? Because you have 5 regen, 4, 3, 2, 1 is 15, and then regen 4 is 4, 3, 2, 1, that's 10, plus 4 HP is 14. So this is effectively less effective HP. Now, in conjunction with other healing, it could be more, but I don't know. I feel like a big part of Wildwood Sap is that it's a card you take for the early game to kind of get through, and maybe you want to double stack it or something. It's just put it on your unit to have them tank through the Archeon fight, and then they survive the Relentless. And I feel like this just makes it worse at doing that. I mean, if you double stack this, it's worse. Regen 8 instead of Regen 10, and the double stack doesn't work on that 4 health. This is a weird change. I don't like this change at all. And it's not like the +4 health is really all that meaningful because the card consumes, so it's not like you could spam this. So it's like 4 health. I don't know. Of course, you could remove consume on it, but I don't know if that's worth it. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't think this is very good. I don't actually like this change. This is one of the few changes I don't really like very much. I think it just makes the card worse when I think the intention is to buff this, but I could be wrong. It doesn't feel like a buff at all to me. I think that's worse. And then Wildenton. So what does Wildenton do now? Where is Wildenton? They don't say what he does. So he has the ability now that says summon, add 3 sting spells, or sorry, ability Needle Bloom, add 3 sting spells to your hand. They don't say what the cooldown is. I think it's 3. But you basically get 3 sting spells every 3 turns. So you play that with your Vine Mother and you get lots of stings that are doing a little bit more damage. I don't know. It's definitely nice to have it as an ability that you can do multiple times a fight. It'll definitely help. Makes it more easy to take Ember upgrades from the bosses. It's definitely a nice little change, but I don't think it's really making Wildenton a whole lot better. It's not really much of a substantial buff at all, in my opinion, but it's something. I don't think this Sting build that they have in mind is going to work. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe. We'll see. I'd love to try it out. I mean, it could be fun, but I'm very skeptical that that's going to work. So there's a lot of changes for Awoken. I mean, they're one of the more changed clans. You see Banished, only 2 cards changed. So Penitent's Bloodsuit, shift, take 30 damage. This is basically going down to 0 Ember from 1. I don't think this is a good change. So let's see what they say here. They say it had been underperforming in terms of pick rate and win rate. It's quite strong early, but falls off due to lack of scaling. Need a decent bit of extra help to be useful. So I'm not sure. They mention that it falls off due to lack of scaling, as if that's something they wanted to address, but then they don't address that here. They just make it 1 Ember, or 0 Ember from 1. So, I don't know. That's kind of confusing. I don't think this is changing anything. There's several problems with this card. Is that one, it gets in the way of like Attuned Whetstone. It gets in the way of Sword Maiden. It eats up your like equipment tutors, and you can't even equip it in your deployment. So it's like actively bad to add to your deck most of the time. Yeah, it's just a bad equipment. Like, you don't want this in your deck. Like, I don't care how powerful it is. It's usually just a negative to have in your deck. Of course, if it's at 300 damage on shift, I mean, that would be a different story. But I mean, like, you know, for what it does, this is just such a nothing effect that there's even in the early game, this is just not worth adding to your deck. It just kind of closes off. It doesn't close off things, but it makes it awkward sometimes. Like I said, if you get the Attuned Whetstone, which is the artifact that draws a weapon from your deck and makes it cost 0. Or no, yeah, it makes it cost 0. Yeah, and Sword Maiden also draws a unit from your deck when you play her. Or draws a weapon from your deck, equipment. So either of those can pull this thing, and you don't want that, because you can't play it on enemies in deployment. Yeah, it's bad. It's just bad. You can't fuse it with anything. I mean, you can, but why would you want to? It's just not good. I don't know. This is just not a good card. This is, like, lowering the Ember cost is not fixing the problem that this card has. So I'm not a fan of this change. Spike of the Banished, I'm going to say same thing. I'm also not really a fan of this change. 3 to 4 Valor, I mean, I still don't think that's enough for this card to be justified. I think it needs to be at least 5, maybe 6 in order for me to even think about playing it most of the time. They say it gave you less Valor than Divinity at 3 cost. But I just don't think this is worth it to add to your deck most of the time. Banished already is so Ember starved a lot of the time that I don't even like have Ember to play this usually. And it's like, okay, I play it for 1 or 2 Ember. It's like, I'm not adding a card to my deck just to get like a one-time 4/8 Valor or whatever. It's just not that valuable. I think this is a card that's just not strong enough still. Even at 4 times, I just don't think it's strong enough. Definitely a buff, but I still am probably just not going to take this card. Okay, Hellhorned. Alley of the Ancients, consume armor 30. That went up from armor 25. Sure, I mean, I think this card is good already, but slight buff. Branding Right, piercing, deal 3 damage, apply armor 20. That used to say 5 damage. So, it definitely, it seems like not much, but the fact that you can now use it on a 10 HP unit 3 times, 10 max HP I should say, use it 3 times instead of only once is pretty massive. Something like a Steelworker, I think has 15 HP, so you could use this 4 times as opposed to twice. It just lets you play it more on the less tanky units. I don't know if I'm going to take this card a lot of the time still. I mean, 2 Ember is still pretty expensive, but it's definitely a nice change. Consumer of Crowns is quite changed. So now he is 4 Ember instead of 8. He lost the tax that made him cost less for each imp in your deck, and he gained an ability Warlord's Tithe. So that says, it's a 2 cooldown, I'm pretty sure. It says sacrifice imp, attack immediately. So Consumer of Crowns need to be updated from Monster Train 1 to Monster Train 2 due to its old effect not working well with deployment phase. We weren't entirely happy with the new effect though and took a playtester's idea to update it into a more interesting ability. So yeah, can attack immediately with an imp. It's a good way to like also kill an endless imp if you have an endless rage imp or an endless welder helper. You can use this ability every 2 turns to kill it and also attack immediately. Still much more early game oriented card. I don't know, the fact that it's just a flat 4 Ember now is kind of a nerf in some ways, because usually if you were playing this with Queen's Implings in your deck at 8 Ember, that meant that it was actually discounted to at least, or I should say at most, 3 Ember, sometimes even 2 or even 1 depending on how many other imps you have in your deck. So the fact that this guy could just be a cheap ball of stats was often the appeal. Now he's very expensive. He's the same price as Demon Fiend, which is another really hard unit to play. Demon Fiend has Trample and comparable stats. Consumer of Crown has Warlord's Tithe, which, you know, lets him attack immediately, which, you know, he can multi-strike, so it could multi-strike with him too. And kill an imp, I mean, that's pretty nice, but I don't know if it's really justifying a 4 Ember cost. That's very expensive. I don't know about this one. This feels like a nerf to me. But we'll see. I'm not super optimistic for this change, but I'll see how it feels. Here's an interesting one. Fortified Pauldrons. They basically changed Fortify into an equipment, so now it says Armor 6 and Resolve gain Armor 6. It's a nice change. Costs 0 Ember, so it's easy to fuse with things. Just put it on any unit, a dualism unit, it gains double the armor. It's just a nice little early game card. I kind of compare it to what is it, the Pyrogel armor, the lava armor, whatever it is in Pyreborne, where it's like a nice little early game card, probably. It's not really scaling that well in the late game, but it's a nice one to sort of get you through the early game. It's a good one to put on some of their more fragile units, on Prince. I like this change a lot. Next we have Horn Break, which says piercing, deal 8 damage twice. It used to say 5 damage twice. I don't think this changes much. I don't think this card needed to be buffed. And I don't think this really changes much. I don't know. Just kind of a whatever change. It's sure. Hornbreaker Prince, yes. Let's see what they did to him. They changed his Reaper path, which is the one that attacks once for a huge amount, and it gains attack on Slay. So now it has cooled ability Culling, which lets him attack immediately with a cooldown of 6, 3, 1. So that initial, I mean, you can only use it once per fight in the early game with 6 cooldown, but it quickly goes down. So being able to attack immediately, you usually want to use this at the beginning of a fight in the early game to make sure you're getting that initial slay on the big tank or fallen champion or whatever. So that could make Reaper Prince pretty good. I think they also changed Wrathful Prince, yeah. So they updated Wrathful Prince's stats from 15, 20, 25, 25, 40, 40 to 25, 25, 35, 50, and 45, 75. And Revenge gain Rage 3, 4, 6 to 4, 5, 6. So definitely really nice stat buffs on all ranks, and then also a little bit more Rage in the early game. This might actually be takeable now. I think it's definitely something that's doable. It's just going to be a big tank, but that might be something. I don't know. Now, especially with this cooldown thing on Reaper, Wrathful still might be the worst, but I mean, this feels much more usable now. It's 40-40, now it has 75 HP. It has almost double the amount of HP. So might actually be kind of useful now. I'm excited to use these Prince. I'm glad they buffed Prince significantly. They buffed 2 of his paths, which I was reading this earlier. If I remember right, it's the only champion they buffed 2 of the paths for. I think Prince was maybe the worst champion in the game, so that's definitely appreciated. Impalate. Deal damage to the front unit equal to 25 times the number of imp units in your deck. I so rarely take this card, so I think it was 20 times before. Yeah, 20 times. Now it's 25 times. Sure. I'm still not gonna probably take it a whole lot, but whatever. Inferno deals 120 damage now instead of 100. The nice thing is this actually hits the breakpoint on the chosen Ardents, those 120 HP healers that have the incant give attack to all units on the train on the Entropy Seraphite. It does kill those guys now, so that's basically the breakpoint that this hits. That's a nice change. I ultimately still think that this card kind of has the same problems, though, is that it's very expensive. You often want to be playing on a lot of your floors, so this is hard to play. But it hits one more breakpoint. It's a very slight buff. Not really moving the needle, though. Molting Imp now deals 10 damage on summon to enemy units, up from 8. I still don't think this is really doing anything. I'm still not going to pick this the majority of the time. It's just whatever. At least it does hit the breakpoint for the Corruption Seraph reanimate guys now, so that's something to consider. But I don't know. I still think you want to come up with a better answer than that most of the time. Okay, Sharktail Queen. So they buffed 2 of the paths. They buffed Royalty, which is the rally path. So stats went from 10, 10, 10, 20, 10, 40 to 10, 15, 15, 30, and 25, 60. Yeah. Nice change. I think Royalty was pretty weak, so it's just nice to get some base stats in there. Imperialists, they converted the effect into an ability that basically just does the same thing. It has cooldown 1, kills all imp units, deal 20 damage per imp to enemy units. It essentially gives her quick, which is really, really huge. That's a really massive change for her, to basically just give her quick. This is very usable now. She's sort of like a sweeper. This is a very good path all of a sudden. Like, suddenly this is completely different now. It actually flips it on its head. This was a really bad path before, in my opinion, and now it's maybe her best path. Yeah, I'm really excited for that. Spike of the Hellhorned, consume, apply 4x rage and 4x armor. That's up from 3x on both. Still not very good. I still don't like this card very much. Just pretty low value. 3 of 4 again. That's not changing a whole lot. Maybe it's a little more takeable now, but And then Vent, deal 5x damage to enemy units, up from 3x. That's cool. I am typically just adding magic power or conduit to this to deal any damage and then just playing it at 0. So this doesn't really change anything in my opinion. Yeah, in the early game it doesn't really change anything either, I think. Yeah, so that's pretty much a nothing change. Okay, Baron Grail and Lazarus. It hungers, HP reduced to 25, 45, 85 to 20, 40, 80. So 5 at all ranks. That's fine. Slight nerf, probably needed it. Learning Limb, so his stats went from 15, 25, 30, 40, 60, 60 to 10, 25, 20, 45, and 40, 80. So they've basically adjusted his stats so that his attack is lower, but his HP is higher. And then the permanent attack granted from the equipment is going from 246 to 369. I'm glad they're buffing this path, because ultimately playing it is just a ton of work for very little gain. You have to put so much work into getting these assistants dead and scaled, and it just doesn't really do that much still, even with like the maximum effort. So getting that scaling better helps, and just making it a little more tanky, a little better stat line. Don't mind it. The health is definitely more important than the attack on him, so I think he appreciates that. It's alive, advance, apply lifesteal 1 and plus 7 attack, down from 10. It says, was one of the strongest common cards. At 10 attack was objectively better, razor sharp edge. I'm curious as to what this means, was one of the strongest common cards. I know they do a lot of metrics based balancing. You know, they said that like low win rate and low pick rate on the Penitent's Bloodsuit, yeah, underperforming in terms of pick rate and win rate. So do they mean that this is one of the strongest common cards in pick rate and win rate? That kind of surprises me, because I don't think this card is really anything special. Also, very interesting, it was objectively a better razor sharp edge, but they buffed razor sharp edge. So now it isn't objectively. If they kept it at 10, it wouldn't be objectively better, because they just buffed razor sharp to 12. So I don't know, this is a weird one. It's there's so many powerful things in Lazarus. It feels weird to me that this is what they chose to nerf. That's such a strange choice, because this is one of my least taken commons in this clan. I don't think this is like a really amazing card at all. I'm very surprised that this is one of the ones they nerfed. I don't know. Organ Harvester, Slay Gain, Reanimate 1. They just bumped up the Ember cost to 2 from 1. Sure, it's probably just too much easy access to reanimate on things that it's good on. Like, I don't think this card is necessarily a problem in general, but when it's usable, it's probably just way too much value for what you're actually paying for it. So I don't mind a nerf there. Pincushion 6/6 to 12/12. They already did that a while ago. I don't know why they're saying this here. They already made that change quite a while ago, so yeah. Test Subject Alpha, here we go. So the Quick Sweep, now 3 Amber, up from 2. It's still a very good card. I'm still going to take it basically most of the time I see it. Doesn't change much, but does maybe make me think twice a little bit more often. Because I don't always take him, and now maybe I won't take him slightly more often, but he's still one of the better sweepers, one of the better units in general. But a very deserved nerf. Yeah. Luna Coven, so we got Ardoon, so we got his Hierophant Path, which is his incant armor one. So it used to say silent units gain double armor. Now it says silent units gain +1, 2, 3 attack. So that's a very interesting change. That definitely helps some of these silent units scale a little bit more. If you don't remember, the silent units include the... Actually, I have the client open here, just to go over what it is. Here's our silent units. The Nightingale can gain attack. That'll be really nice for him because he's very attack based. Silent Sentinel, I mean, sure. Moon Guard, he doesn't need attack, and then Shade Guard can help him scale a little bit faster. He can be a little bit slow to scale, so that's definitely very nice. Yeah, ultimately I think the silent units gain double armor was kind of completely overkill. So I'm glad they're doing something other, like something else beneficial. So it's definitely just a nice buff for Ardoon. Now we have Eka Silver Empress, that is the conduit on Full Moon Path. So buffing its stats from 15-10, 20-15, 30-20 to 20-20, 25-25, and 30-30. So basically just giving it a flat 10 HP at every rank. And then 5 attack on the earlier 2 ranks. And the conduit on Silver Empress 1, just 1 I guess, is going up from 15 to 25 on Full Moon. Silver Empress was slightly too difficult to play in early ranks, so it's giving her a slight boost in her first tier. That's fine, yeah. Ultimately, Eka definitely needed some help in the early game. She had 2 paths that were just terrible in the early game and could make really scary ring ones, so glad they at least did something. We'll see if it's enough. I think she's still going to be one of the more scary champions to play on ring 1, but it definitely at least helps. Hexcalation cost reduced from 2 to 1, so they're buffing Hexcalation, even though they nerfed Restoring Retreat. I don't know. Not sure. They said they... What did they say about Restoring Retreat? At 1 cost, Restoring Retreat was an easy way to overstack a floor. So... Is that not true for Hexcalation as well? I don't know. It's weird. It's just, I mean, I guess they figure they need the help, but it's weird to buff this card when they just said that 2, like 1 is too little to give such an easy overstack, and then they make this one. I don't know. That's weird. Not complaining about it, but it's a weird decision. Now we have Nightingale, so on New Moon he gains Multi-Strike 2 instead of Multi-Strike 1, so that's definitely very helpful, especially in that conjunction with that new Ardoon Hierophant Path. This unit might be a lot more worth considering now, so that's quite nice. It still has terrible stats. I still would hate to see this unit in my opener. It's still useless a lot of the time, especially when I'm like playing Eka or not playing Hierophant Ardoon. It's going to be useless often still, but it's much more easy to support in theory now. And it also has an extra multi-strike, so when you do get it going, it will really be a lot better. Okay, Melting Remnant. Dark Calling Rector Flicker. Let's see. Yeah, Dark Calling Rector Flicker. Converted into ability. Reform 2 random units. Now it says reform 3 random units. Yeah, that's it. So basically change it to a 1 cooldown ability that says reform 3 random units instead of 2. So it's just a buff. They made it into an ability, which is interesting. I guess it allows you to play him top now. And if something dies bottom floor on the first turn, you can now use his ability to get those reforms immediately instead of having to wait another turn. So that definitely helps. It also reforms 3 units instead of 2. So just a nice little buff for Dark Calling. I kind of wish that they changed the burnout path instead. But ultimately, the change that I kind of wanted for the burnout path, they did end up adding on another unit that I'm going to talk about. So can't be too upset about that, but yeah. Giraffe went up to 15 attack from 10. Definitely a unit that had a fall from grace. I mean, without infusions anymore, this unit just doesn't really have a place. I just haven't really used this at all. It's just hard to make it work. It doesn't have draw priority, it doesn't have deployment. Hard to kind of find a place for draft these days. I don't know if 15 attack is really fixing that problem, but we'll see. Hollow Drippings now cost 1 Ember from 0, and it says consume, apply burnout 5 and +5 attack to friendly burnout units. So some nice little AoE scaling. Yeah. At 1 Ember it is a little bit annoying because it's not a 0 cost source of burnout anymore, so that's definitely a bit of a nerf there. I'm not sure if just 5 attack once is enough to make up for that. I think this is overall kind of a nerf, unfortunately, even though I think it's meant to be a buff. But I don't know, it was often just not that good anyway, even at 0 cost. Just giving a lot of burnout to your floor is not that important a lot of the time, or doable in other ways, so I don't know, maybe more takeable. Hollowed Halls, kill friendly units, reform random units until this floor exceeds its capacity. Nerf to 3 Amber from 2. It's probably deserved. I mean, it's pretty hard to... I don't know. It's, yeah, it makes it a lot harder to play multiple of them and to do it every turn, which is kind of what you want to do, but I think it's still very doable. It is a bit unfortunate, though. I think it is actually pretty significant nerf. It makes this a lot harder to play multiple copies, and yeah. So definitely a pretty big nerf. I don't think this was like the most broken card ever or anything, so it is a bit of a shame, even though it's very good when it's good, but yeah, it's a pretty substantial nerf. Legion of Wax, just updated its stats to 16-16 from 8-8. Not sure that really changes much for it. I definitely think it was a little bit on the weaker side maybe, so it's cool to see some buffs, but I'm not sure if this really is changing a whole lot. Little Fade, what do they do? Oh, Little Icarus, spikes 5 to spike 7. That is the initial spikes that she gets on rank 1. So, not sure that's really helping anything. I would have to assume they're going to fix the bug where if she dies when she gets the slay, she doesn't get the permascaling. So I have to assume they're fixing that bug too, and then also adding 2 more spikes at rank 1, which is nothing, really. I mean, it's not really changing much of anything, but we'll see if it works when the if there's a fix for this path, but ultimately I just don't see it scaling up to the level of the game needed. I think it's still going to be the worst path. I don't know. I don't think 5 to 7 is really anything. Memorial for the Melted is now a room, so it's memories of the Melted, and they turn it into a room. 1 Ember for friendly units have Endless. So that could be a really nice change. Good for doing Endless Tombs. Guess that's kind of it, but yeah, it definitely could be useful in certain times. It's nice if something burns out, or yeah, like I said, if you got tombs going, it's a pretty nice one to have. Not anything crazy in my opinion most of the time, but it's okay. It's nice to have. Resin removal got nerfed to 2 Ember from 1. Fair. Not much else to say about it. And Votivary now says extinguish, draw +2 next turn. So that's to address infinites. If you could kill it on your turn, you draw a card, and then it could just lead to infinites. But now it's +2 next turn, which is still quite good. It's just not an infinite enabler anymore. On the Pyreborne, we have Devilish Details, which is consume, gain 3 eggs. Your pyre takes 8 damage. That is down from 10 damage. Definitely maybe worth considering more often now, but that's still a lot of pyre damage to take. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out, but I still don't see myself taking this a whole lot. It's a lot of pyre damage to take. 8 is a lot. Yeah, I don't know, but definitely more worth consideration. Pyre-Blooded's Ember cost is going down to 1 from 2. They say Pyre-Blooded has a strong effect. Citation needed on that one. I'm not sure I agree with that. But needs investment. Pyregel. Want to keep it slightly niche, not bump up its base stats, but still a valuable pick for Pyregel runs. I don't know. I still think it has the same problems where its ability is just not really easy to use, and even if you do have an easy to use situation for it, it just means you're gonna win anyway because you have tons of Pyregel. So I don't know. I don't think that this is really gonna make me think that this is a great unit. It's 1 Ember is just not the change that it needed. I think it needs a lot more than that. Pyre Hearts, okay, we put Pyre Hearts in the middle of all the clans for some reason, but Heart of the Pact, HP increasing by 10, and Wing Spirit going up by 5. Definitely nice buffs. Wing Spirit was a little bit lower on max HP at max rank for some reason, so buffing it up. I don't think Wing Spirit is like a terrible pyre, so I don't think it really needs buffs, but it's nice to have it. Heart of the Pact is the one that needs the buffs in my opinion. Definitely needs that 10 HP. It's a very welcome change. Okay, Stygian. Cuddle Hex has been converted into an ability that says Freeze Ray, apply frozen to a card in hand. I guess I should go there. So I'm assuming that means you can choose which card it is. That's definitely much better. I don't know if it'll really be worth adding this to my deck still and having it take up space on the floor to do that, but it makes it much more usable for the early and mid game when you start with it. Definitely makes it way more appealing. I don't know if it's really making it takeable most of the time, but it's nice. Nice change. Deep Offering, another infinite thing that they're addressing, just making it cost 3 Ember. A lot harder to do remove consume and -2 consume and just have 0 Ember, draw 5 cards. Energy Siphon, you can use on your own units now. Same thing as like Ensnare. So you can get an incant going even if you have no enemies on the floor. That's a nice change. I've always kind of wish I could play it when, even since Monster Chain 1 days, it's always annoying to have this and not have a target for it so you can't get an incant. But now you can just play it on your own units. Just a nice quality of life change. Gifts for Guard, this is another infinite thing, and now it says consume, draw 3 damage spells, and apply consume 30 magic power in 0 Ember. So it only does damage spells now, so it can't draw another copy of itself, which ultimately kills the infinite completely. So, I don't know, this card I think is kind of a bad card now. If you can't do infinite stuff with it, I think it's just bad. I don't think this is doing anything at all if you can't do infinite stuff. Or at least I can't really think of a great use for it most of the time. Offering Monument, same thing. They just changed it to draw +1 next turn on incant. It has 1 HP now. This is still very good. It's basically kind of similar to Deathcap Prophet, the one that gives 1 draw and rally. If you have this, you're doing any kind of incant thing, you're still going to be drawing 10 cards a turn. You just won't be able to draw like 20 cards on turn 1 and just draw through your whole deck, which is definitely a sizable nerf, but it's still going to be good, I think. Still worth including. Yeah. Definitely a nerf, though. We have Siren Song. This is now a room. It costs 2 Ember. It's still Pyreborne. It says, at the start of combat, ascend non-boss enemy units and apply daze 3. So it doesn't work on bosses anymore, which is tragic. And it's at the start of combat. So if you have units on the floor, they're not going to attack before this ascends them up to the pyre. This is definitely way more niche now. You can't just put double stack holdover or intrinsic or whatever on it and just win the game. I think it'll still have its place with like frostbite builds and stuff, but that's definitely a huge nerf. It's nowhere even remotely near where that card was before. It's gone from like one of the best cards in the game to very situational. Okay, Tethys, Sweet Path, got an ability, Runespeak. Draw a damage spell and apply 5, 10, 20 magic power. That's fine. I don't really think that this Tethys Path needed a buff, but I mean, I can definitely live with that. That's a fine change. I don't think it's really making a huge difference one way or the other, but it's good to have a spell. Titan's Gratitude, they're upping the damage, the base damage to 60 from 29. Yeah, that's a nice one. I think it was kind of reliant on spell weakness from like a Silliphite before to really get its maximum value in the early game. But now it's a nice big spell, so definitely will take it. Unnamed Tome, they just changed it to Permafrost Consume. Apply Mute 3 down from Mute 5 to enemy units. Still very good, still very takeable. Yeah, I'm still going to take this card. Soul Guard, now, this is for his Titan Channel Path. He now has Stasis and ability Resurgence, and an incant gain shard 1. So the ability Insurgence is remove Stasis and gain +6, +10, +15 attack and HP per shard. So if you have 4 shards at rank 1, you can get +24, +24, which is 29 stats, which is about half of what he was before at rank 1. But you can actually wait to hatch him now, so you can kind of keep his health up. If you want to maybe let your backliner eat a couple hits before you hatch him, is always nice. The ability is cooldown 99, and it says it's removed once you use it. So I don't know if you can reform it and get the ability back or what, but yeah. It's definitely a really nice change to Titan Channel because you would often just have so much trouble hatching it at the later ranks. Like 15 shards is just not really feasible, even on incant builds later on. It's so hard to pull that off, especially because you're often taking an Ember upgrade now instead of double draw like you were in Monster Train 1. It's way harder to get those necessary incants in. So being able to choose is a huge quality of life improvement. So 15, 15. If you have 10 shards, maybe you can get up to 10 before the units come. That's 150, 150. That's a pretty nice tank. He's not amazing, but he'll hold his own for a little bit. It's more for the early game anyway, so You know, I don't expect this ability to ever really pop off in the late game most of the time, but it at least is functional in the late game now. Okay, Umbra, Alloyed Construct, he just starts with Fuel 2 now. He has Inert, Multi-Strike, and Gorge gain Fuel 1, but he starts with Fuel 2. That's a really nice change. You know, kind of gets the ball rolling on the fuel, helps it last longer through Relentless if you can keep it up the whole fight. Yeah, just a nice little quality of life update. I still don't love the fuel system for this unit. I don't know. I wish they came up with some kind of rework for it, but it's still a good unit. And that's just going to be a nice quality of life change. Blazing Bolts now deals 60 damage per bolt, where it dealt 40 before. It's alright. I mean, it doesn't really... It's not a card I want to rely on. It doesn't have a ton of synergy with Umbra. So, I still won't take it very often, but, I mean, sure. You can buff it. Crucible Collector now has 35 HP, gain Gorge, gain lifesteal 1, 30-35, up from a 30-20. Yeah, definitely nice to give him some base HP just to survive an initial hit. You know, the lifesteal is kind of hard sometimes to keep him alive, even with tons of lifesteal, because he'll just get one shot with like 20 HP, so definitely appreciate the health buff. And you notice they only buffed this one. They didn't buff the damage shield one. So it seems apparent that this one was performing worse in their data, which doesn't surprise me. Crucible extension, they have now turned into a room. It's just a 2 ember room that says gain +4 capacity. I don't know. I think this could be good if you're doing certain things, but if you're just going to use this to play like more morsels on the floor, I can't really imagine this is really worth taking. But you can pull off some, you know, overstacked, or not overstacked, but just some wide floors with this. Not that Umbra wants to do that a lot of the time, but if your secondary clan does, it can be good. You know, it can be. So I imagine this card can kind of like is going to like probably bail me out sometimes when I like have an overstack sort of setup going on. I don't have room for it yet, and I see this card, and it's like, oh, I can just take this, and I don't have to take, you know, space. I can take Ember or draw or whatever at the boss, and now my plan comes together earlier. So I mean, it has its place. I don't think it's like amazing, but this card's probably gonna have its place. And then same thing with Engine Room. It's a room now. 0 Ember, and it does the same thing. -1 capacity, +1 Ember per turn. So the fact that it costs 0 and is deployable now is nice. The fact that it takes up a room slot is not nice. Overall, kind of a wash, I think. I thought it was alright before as a spell, and now it's probably just alright again. Forever Consumed deals 80x damage to the front enemy unit. I think there was a blurb on this. It says this is a big buff, but the card needed it. Yeah, I agree. Still don't know if I'm going to take it a lot of time, but definitely needed it. Mind Collapse, same thing as Ensnare and whatever. You can use it on your own units now, so you can kill a morsel. You know, you can play this at 1 Ember, kill a morsel, and gain 2 Embers. Or if you have +10 magic power on it, you can get Ember out of it. Nice little quality of life change again. That'll come in handy. Morsel Maid now says +4/+4 per Gorge instead of +2/+2. Nice change. I think he was kind of really slow scaling before, so better to get him up to his old self where he's, you know, scaling out of control. Overgorger, health is just buffed to 35 from 25. I did voice my complaint about that it was just too squishy for what it kind of wants to do. Yeah. But now it has more health, so... Though I love it still, not really. I think it's still 2 Ember and 3 space, so... Don't love this one, but definitely more usable now. And then the champions both got changed. We have Penumbra, it's just the Glutton Path. Stats increase from 20-20 at all ranks to 20-20, 35-35, and 50-50. Glutton needs time to scale, and at 20 HP, it would die too quick in later rings before it can feasibly scale up. Yeah, I agree. So nice that he doesn't get one shot anymore. Definitely helpful. Primordium Stalwart Snack. So at Stalwart Snack 3, stats go up from 3-3 to 10-10. So I guess they want to entice people to take Stalwart Snack 3 because you basically never do now. You're just using it to get more eats on superfood most of the time. That's like a 1-point wonder. Now, if you go to the max rank, which I think the max rank... Let me verify this first. I think it's 12. Oh, it's here. So Stalwart Snack, yeah. So now it's buffet 12. So, or it was buffet 12, still is. So now if you eat 10-10 12 times, it's 120-120. So it's definitely nothing to scoff at, but ultimately I don't think this is going to really encourage me to go Stalwart Snack 3 a whole lot. But at least it's maybe a little bit more in line with the other paths. So we'll see about that. I don't imagine myself taking full Stalwart Snack though. Okay, Underlegion, just the champions. Bolete Executioner, that's his harvest path. His harvest gain regen and rage. Doesn't matter anymore, they completely scrapped it. Now it says Siphon, so basically whenever an enemy unit dies, spawn 2/2/3. Fungi gain plus 0/2/3 health per stack. I think that's supposed to say 1/2/3 health per stack. So fungi gain 1/2/3 health per stack. So it helps make your fungi tankier. It also gives you more consistent spawn when you're playing Bolete, which I think is genuinely a problem with him a lot of the time. So he can have a lot of, even with Eager Conscript, you know, a lot of the times you have like a spore launcher or something. Sometimes the only way you can consistently spawn every turn is if you like hold over an Eager Conscript, which is, you know, it feels terrible to do that because it's just very weak. So having another way to actually spawn stuff is really huge. And, you know, I kind of was warming up a little bit to the harvest path, but ultimately I'm not going to miss it. So his stats go from 10-30, 30-60, 50-120 to 30-20, 50-50, 80-100. So more attack, less health. Yeah, and the fungi is going to be a little tankier though, so yeah, gonna make the floor a little tankier. It's gonna be a lot of space to take up for Bolete, but if you can play like a Smidgestone spore launcher behind him or whatever, and it'll be good. I think it probably is an improvement over the old harvest path. They also changed his headsman path, which is his trample one. It's just the max rank. The attack went from 100 to 160. I don't really... That's to entice you to try to go all the way in it, but it's still just a 1-point wonder because it says trample. Madame Lion's Mane, the Spore Singer path. So it's, again, only at Spore Singer 3. When an enemy unit gains decay, it gains 4 to 5 stacks. So it gains 5 stacks now. Not really moving the needle, to be honest with you. I think it is the path that I take the least, but it's not bad. It's just that I think the other two paths are better. I imagine people will probably put like 1 point into this, into Spore Singer, and then they'll go like Maneater or the other one after that. Just because that initial decay boost is like really worth it. But now they're trying to entice you to go all the way, but I don't think that's really changing my mind. So that looks like it. So this is all the changes. We should also have some new weapons and some new rooms for new clans and old clans as well coming in. I don't have all of those yet, or they didn't post all of them yet, so we'll go over those maybe, or we'll just wait until Wednesday to see what they look like. Yeah, I think these are mostly positive changes overall. They didn't include the Lady of the House picture in here, so let me go over that real quick. She now has +5 attack for every stack of burnout, and her base health reduced from 45 to 25. So now she's not such a huge, block of cheese, but she's scaling really well, and it's like weaponizing burnout, which is what I wanted them to do for Burnout Rector. So I'm at least glad they did it for something. Similar to want to differentiate House Current from Shadow Shell, we want to differentiate Lady of the House from Lady of the Reformed a bit more, okay? Yeah, so this is just another scaling plan for melting, which is something they needed in my opinion, with Paraffin Enforcer kind of just being really underwhelming, so yeah. So that's that. Let me know if you guys have any opinions. You like these changes? Looking forward to it on Wednesday. I'll definitely be making some videos for that, doing some runs, checking out the new stuff. Hope you enjoyed watching, and thank you for watching. That'll be all. Thank you.